When debt becomes a death sentence. Blood splattered across white tile. Lena's hand shook as glass shattered behind her. They'd found her apartment. 3 men. Baseball bats. 48 hours to pay, or her mother dies next. She'd worked every shift, skipped every meal, smiled through every insult, slinging coffee for strangers. None of it mattered. The number only grew. And now, cornered in her own kitchen with a cracked phone screen showing one impossible name, Adrian Vale, she had seconds to decide: press send and surrender to a man more dangerous than her creditors, or face what came through that splintering door. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in Morningside Cafe buzzed the same sick frequency every morning at 5:47 a.m., and Lena Carter had learned to hate that sound more than her alarm clock. She tied her apron with mechanical precision, the green fabric worn thin at the edges, her name tag slightly crooked because the pin had broken weeks ago and she couldn't afford to replace it. The espresso machine hissed to life under her touch, steam curling into the pre-dawn darkness beyond the windows. Outside, the city looked empty. Inside, Lena felt emptier. "You're early again." Marcus, the morning manager, shuffled in with his perpetual coffee-stained tie and yesterday's stubble. He wasn't a bad guy. Just tired. Like everyone else, grinding through life one shift at a time. "Couldn't sleep," Lena said. Truth was, she hadn't slept properly in 6 months. Not since the phone calls started. Not since the number, that impossible, suffocating number, had grown teeth and started eating her alive from the inside out. Marcus grunted something that might have been sympathy and disappeared into the back office. Lena pulled the first batch of pastries from the delivery box, arranging them in the display case with hands that had memorized every movement. Croissants left, muffins center, Danishes right. The rhythm kept her brain quiet, kept the math from spinning through her head on repeat. $73,800. $42. The interest added $16 daily. She made $9.50 an hour plus tips. The math didn't work. It would never work. But she kept calculating anyway, like scratching a wound that wouldn't heal. The first customer arrived at 6:15, a regular, some tech guy who always ordered a triple espresso and never made eye contact. Lena rang him up with a smile that felt painted on. He left a $1 tip. She added it to the jar mechanically. By 7, the morning rush had started. Orders blurred together. Grande latte, venti caramel macchiato, extra caramel, no whip, medium dark roast, room for cream. Her hands moved faster than her thoughts, which was good, because her thoughts were dangerous territory these days. She didn't notice him come in. She never noticed him come in. Adrian Vale didn't announce himself. He simply existed in spaces, and those spaces rearranged themselves around him without anyone quite understanding why. Lena felt the shift first, that strange pocket of quiet that formed in the far corner booth, the one with the broken cushion that nobody wanted. Except he sat there every Tuesday and Thursday morning at exactly 7:33 a.m., ordered a single black coffee, and watched her for 47 minutes. Lena knew because she'd timed it once, unnerved by the weight of his attention. "Your stalker's back," Jenna whispered, hip-checking Lena at the espresso machine. Jenna had worked at Morningside for 3 years and thought she'd seen everything. She hadn't. "He's not a stalker," Lena muttered, though she wasn't sure what he was. Customer didn't fit. Neither did threat exactly, though everything about Adrian Vale suggested danger the way storm clouds suggested rain. "He's been coming here for what, 2 months? And he only orders coffee, doesn't touch his phone, doesn't read, just sits there watching you like you're the only person in the room." Jenna waggled her pierced eyebrows. "That's either romantic or serial killer behavior, and honestly, with your luck, it's probably both." Lena didn't laugh. She risked a glance toward the corner booth. Adrian was already looking at her. He always was. She jerked her gaze away, pulse stumbling. It shouldn't affect her like this. He was just a man. Tall, yes. Built like violence wrapped in expensive fabric. Sharp-featured in a way that made classical sculpture look soft. Dark hair that probably cost more to maintain than her monthly rent. Eyes that were some shade between gray and winter storm, the kind that saw too much and revealed nothing. Just a man. Except men like Adrian Vale didn't exist in her world. They occupied different altitudes entirely, where money moved in silence and problems disappeared before they became inconvenient. Whatever he was doing in a broke-down cafe in a neighborhood gentrification hadn't reached yet. It wasn't random. Nothing about him was random. "I'm taking my break," Lena said abruptly. "You just got here. I'm taking my break." She untied her apron and pushed through the back door into the alley, where the dumpsters reeked and the morning air tasted like exhaust and old grease. Her phone was already in her hand before the door closed. 3 missed calls, all from the same number. She didn't need to check the voicemail. She knew what it said. Variations on a theme, time's running out, interest compounds. "We know where you work. We know where your mother is." Lena's mother, who was dying, who'd needed an experimental treatment that insurance called elective and doctors called her only shot, who Lena had loved enough to sign papers she didn't understand and shake hands with men whose smiles had price tags attached. $73,000 to save a life. Now, it might cost 2. "Hey!" Lena spun, phone nearly slipping from her grip. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. "There's a guy asking for you, says it's important." Her stomach dropped. "What guy?" "Didn't give a name, just said to tell you he's waiting." The alley suddenly felt too small. "Tell him I'm on break. Tell him—" "Lena," Marcus's voice dropped. "He's not the kind of guy you tell anything. He's the kind you listen to." "No, not here. Not now." She pushed past Marcus back into the cafe, scanning for threats. But it wasn't one of the collectors. Those guys wore cheap suits and cheaper cologne, all bluster and barely restrained violence. The man standing near the register was something else entirely. Tailored charcoal suit, steel gray hair, posture that screamed military background even in civilian clothes. He looked at Lena. "Miss Carter." "A word?" "I'm working." "This won't take long." It wasn't a request. He gestured toward the door. Lena's hands curled into fists. She felt the weight of eyes on her back. Jenna pretending not to watch, customers glancing up, and from the corner booth, Adrian Vale sitting perfectly still with his untouched coffee and his storm cloud eyes tracking every movement. "Outside," Lena said. The gray-haired man nodded and held the door. She walked through, spine rigid, already planning. She had pepper spray in her bag. Her phone was charged. The street was public. Witnesses everywhere. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't— "My name is Robert Kincaid," the man said once they were on the sidewalk. "I work for Adrian Vale." Everything stopped. Lena turned slowly. "What?" "Mr. Vale would like to extend his compliments and offer his assistance with your current financial situation." The words didn't make sense. They were English. She understood each one individually, but strung together they became nonsense. "I don't understand." "I think you do." Kincaid's expression didn't change. "Mr. Vale is aware of your debt. He's prepared to settle it in full, with no strings attached. A gesture of goodwill." "Why?" The question came out sharper than she intended. "Why would he do that?" "That's not my concern. My job is to deliver the offer." Kincaid produced a business card from his inside pocket. Heavy stock, expensive, with nothing but a phone number embossed in gold. "Think it over. You have 48 hours before your next payment is due. We both know you won't make it." He was right. The knowledge sat in her chest like lead. "What does he want from me?" Lena asked, because nobody paid $73,000 without wanting something back. That was the first lesson she'd learned. Generosity was just another word for debt. "He wants nothing," Kincaid said, "though I imagine he'd appreciate you not filing a restraining order for his cafe visits." Despite everything, Lena almost laughed. It came out strangled. "He's been watching me. He's been making sure you're safe." "That's not his job." "No," Kincaid agreed. "But Mr. Vale has unusual ideas about responsibility." He tapped the business card still in Lena's hand. "Call if you change your mind. Or don't. Either way, I've delivered the message." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the morning foot traffic like he'd never existed. Lena stood on the sidewalk, staring at the card, her mind spinning. This was insane. This was a trap. Men like Adrian Vale didn't help people like her without agendas. And yet, 48 hours. She looked up. Through the cafe window, she could see Adrian still sitting in his corner booth, coffee untouched, expression unreadable. He didn't wave, didn't acknowledge her at all, just sat there like a statue carved from money and mystery, waiting for something only he understood. Lena shoved the card in her pocket and went back to work. The rest of her shift passed in a fog. She made drinks, took orders, smiled at customers, and thought about numbers. Always numbers. The debt. The interest. The 48 hours ticking down like a countdown to some invisible explosion. When she left at 2 p.m., exhausted and wired simultaneously, Adrian Vale was gone. His coffee cup sat empty on the table, a $50 bill tucked underneath. That was more than her rent. Lena wanted to leave it there, wanted to prove she wasn't for sale. But pride was expensive and she was broke, so she pocketed the money and hated herself just a little bit more. The bus ride home took 40 minutes through parts of the city where gentrification was still a rumor. Lena lived in a fourth-floor walk-up with thin walls and thinner heat, the kind of place where everyone minded their business because everyone had business they didn't want minded. Her apartment was barely 600 square feet, kitchenette, bathroom, bedroom that doubled as living room. She'd furnished it with sidewalk finds and thrift store miracles, and it had felt like an achievement once. Now it just felt temporary, like she was camping in her own life, waiting for everything to collapse. She dropped her bag by the door and collapsed on the futon that served as her couch. The business card was still in her pocket. She pulled it out, staring at the number. Call if you change your mind. She wouldn't. She couldn't. Accepting help from Adrian Vale meant entering a world she didn't understand, and Lena had learned the hard way that invisible rules were the most dangerous kind. Better to handle this herself. She still had 2 days. Maybe she could pick up extra shifts. Maybe the collectors would accept partial payment. Maybe... Her phone rang. Unknown number. Lena's stomach twisted, but she answered anyway. Hello? Miss Carter. The voice was male, unfamiliar, with an accent she couldn't place. We need to discuss your payment. I have 48 hours. Plans change. Background noise filtered through, traffic maybe, or voices. We're downstairs, come talk, or we come up, your choice. The line went dead. Lena sat frozen for 3 seconds, then she moved. The pepper spray was in her bag. She grabbed it, hands shaking, and went to the window. 4 floors down, a black sedan idled at the curb. 2 men leaned against it, both watching her building. One of them looked up and waved. No, 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 no. Lena backed away from the window. She needed to think, needed to plan, but panic was climbing her throat and her apartment suddenly felt like a cage with walls closing in. She looked at her phone, at the business card still clutched in her other hand. 48 hours. Except she didn't have 48 hours. She had minutes, maybe less, before those men decided patience wasn't profitable. Her fingers dialed before her brain approved the decision. The phone rang once. Miss Carter, Kincaid's voice, calm as glass. I was hoping you'd call. There are men outside my building, Lena said. Her voice didn't shake. Small victory. They want to talk about my payment. Don't go down. They said they'd come up. They won't. How do you... Lock your door. Stay inside. Help is en route. What help? What? The line disconnected. Lena stared at her phone, then at the door, then back at the window. The men were still there. One of them gestured toward the building entrance. They were coming up. She ran to the door, engaged the deadbolt, hooked the chain. Useless. The chain was decorative at best. If they wanted in, locks wouldn't stop them. Footsteps in the hallway, heavy, purposeful. Lena grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer, 6 inches of dull steel that felt pathetic in her grip, but better than nothing. She positioned herself behind the futon, phone in one hand, knife in the other, heart hammering against her ribs. A knock. 3 sharp raps. Lena Carter, open up. Just want to talk. She didn't answer. We know you're in there. Make this easy on yourself. Still nothing. The door shook. Once. Testing. Then harder. The frame groaned. The chain rattled. Lena tightened her grip on the knife, mind racing through options she didn't have. The fire escape was on the other side of the apartment. She could try to run, but they'd hear her. She could call the police, but by the time they arrived, the door exploded inward. The chain snapped. The deadbolt tore free. and two men filled her doorway, backlit by fluorescent hallway lighting, their faces shadowed, but their intent crystal clear. "There she is," one of them said. "See? Not so hard." Lena raised the knife. "Get out!" The lead guy laughed. He was thick-shouldered, buzz-cut, with prison tattoos crawling up his neck. "Put that down before you hurt yourself." "I said get out!" "And I said we need to talk about your payment. You're late." "I have 48 hours." "Had. Past tense." He stepped into her apartment, his partner following. They moved like predators, comfortable with violence, used to people backing down. "See? Interest compounds. And you've been a very expensive investment. Time to pay up." "I don't have the money." "Then we got a problem." He glanced around her apartment, cataloging. "Nice place. Shame if something happened to it. Bigger shame if something happened to you. Or your mom. How's she doing, by the way? Hospital care is expensive." Lena's vision tunneled. "Don't. Don't what? State facts? Your mother's in County General, room 412. Lots of sick people in hospitals. Accidents happen." The knife shook in her hand. She wanted to use it. Wanted to drive it into his smug face and make him stop talking, stop threatening, stop existing. But she'd never hurt anyone in her life. And the gap between wanting violence and committing it was a chasm she didn't know how to cross. The man saw her hesitation, smiled. "That's what I thought. Now." Glass shattered. Not her window. Somewhere else, close. The hallway, maybe. Both men spun toward the sound, suddenly alert, suddenly less confident. Footsteps thundered up the stairs, multiple people moving fast. "What the—" Buzzcut started. The door to the stairwell crashed open, and Adrian Vale walked through it like judgment itself. He wasn't alone. 4 men flanked him, all built like heavyweight fighters, all moving with military precision. But Lena barely noticed them. She couldn't look away from Adrian, because the man who sat quietly in the corner of the cafe, watching her with winter storm eyes, was gone. In his place was something cold and precise and absolutely lethal. "Gentlemen," Adrian said. His voice was conversational, polite even. "You're trespassing." Buzzcut recovered first. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone you should have researched before making threats." Adrian stepped into the apartment, his people fanning out behind him. The space suddenly felt very crowded. "Miss Carter is under my protection. That makes your business my business, and I'm very protective of my interests. We don't know who you are, fancy suit, but this doesn't concern you." "You just threatened her mother." "In front of witnesses." Adrian glanced at Lena. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Good." He returned his attention to the collectors. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. Now. You're going to contact your employer and inform them Miss Carter's debt has been purchased and settled in full. And you're going to forget this address, her name, and her face. Do you understand?" Buzzcut laughed, but it sounded forced. "You think you can just buy your way into someone else's business?" "I don't think." "I know, because I've already done it." Adrian pulled out his phone, tapped the screen once, and held it up. "Transfer confirmation, $73,842, plus interest, plus penalties, plus a premium for the inconvenience of extracting her from your enthusiastic collection methods." The screen glowed, numbers in black and white, undeniable. Buzzcut's expression shifted, confusion, then recognition, then fear. "Vale," he said. "You're Adrian Vale." Now he catches up. Adrian pocketed his phone. "So we understand each other?" The second collector grabbed Buzzcut's arm, already backing toward the door. "We're leaving. This is done. We didn't know, obviously." Adrian's voice dropped several degrees. "If you did, you never would have touched her. Now get out. And if I hear about any retaliation, any accidents, any mysterious problems for Miss Carter or her mother, I won't send lawyers. I'll handle it personally. And trust me, you don't want that." They ran. Actually ran. Down the hall, footsteps pounding, gone. Silence filled the apartment. Lena still held the knife. Her hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped it. Adrian noticed. He gestured to one of his men who stepped forward carefully, gently taking the weapon from her grip. "It's over," Adrian said. "What did you do?" Lena's voice came out hoarse. "I bought your debt." "Why?" Because you needed help. Nobody helps for free. I'm not nobody. He studied her, and for a moment the cold precision softened into something almost human. You're safe now. They won't come back. You can't know that. Yes, Adrian said quietly. I can. The certainty in his voice should have been arrogant. Instead, it was just fact. The way gravity was fact. The way sunrise was fact. Adrian Vale said she was safe, and somehow, impossibly, Lena believed him. She sank onto the futon, adrenaline crash hitting like a wave. Her apartment door hung crooked on its hinges. The chain dangled uselessly. Everything felt surreal, like she'd stepped sideways into some parallel version of her life where mysterious billionaires paid off mob debts and broke into buildings to save baristas they'd been quietly stalking. I don't understand any of this, she said. You don't need to. Yes, I do. You've been watching me for months. You knew about my debt. You knew where I lived. You show up with, she gestured vaguely at his security team, an army the second I'm in danger. That's not normal. That's not how people behave. I'm not most people. Clearly. So explain it to me. Why me? What do you want? Adrian was silent for a long moment. Then he crouched down so they were eye level, close enough that she could see the gray in his eyes wasn't uniform. There were flecks of darker blue, like storm clouds with lightning trapped inside. 6 months ago, he said, you poured coffee for a man having the worst day of his life. He was rude, dismissive. You didn't know he'd just buried his daughter, didn't know he was 2 signatures away from selling everything he'd built. You just saw someone who needed kindness, and you gave it. Do you remember? Lena searched her memory. 6 months. Early customers. Rude man. She'd given him a free pastry because he looked like he needed it. She barely remembered. Maybe? He was my partner, and that small act of kindness from a stranger convinced him not to walk into traffic that afternoon. Adrian's voice stayed level, but something flickered behind his eyes. So when I learned you were in trouble, that the woman who saved my friend's life was drowning, I decided to pay attention. And what I saw was someone fighting battles she shouldn't have to fight alone. So here I am. The explanation should have made sense. Should have wrapped everything up neatly. But there were gaps. Questions that gnawed at the edges. You paid $73,000 because I was nice to your friend once. I've spent more on less. That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving tonight. He stood, gesturing to his team. Kincaid will arrange repairs for your door. Security will be posted downstairs until we're certain there's no retaliation. And you, he looked at her again, should get some rest. You're safe now. Am I? Lena met his eyes. Or did I just trade one debt for another? You owe me nothing. Everyone wants something. Not from you. It was a lie. Lena knew it was a lie. But she was too tired to fight, too wrung out to argue, and some traitorous part of her wanted desperately to believe him, to believe that safety existed, that someone powerful had looked at her struggling existence and decided it was worth protecting. Thank you, she said finally. The words felt inadequate. For tonight, for everything. Adrian nodded once. Then he turned toward the door, his team falling into formation around him. But at the threshold, he paused. The cafe, he said. I'll still be there Tuesday and Thursday. Same table, same time. Why? Because I like the coffee. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. And the company's not bad either. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone in her broken apartment with more questions than answers and the creeping suspicion that her life had just changed in ways she couldn't begin to understand. She looked at her phone. 11:47 p.m. Her mother would be asleep by now, drugged and dreaming in her hospital bed, unaware of the violence that had nearly reached her, unaware that her daughter had just been saved by a man who watched from corner booths and paid off debts like other people tipped baristas. Lena stood slowly, crossed to the window. 4 floors down, a different car sat at the curb now, sleek, black, expensive. Adrian's security, watching, protecting. She touched the window glass, cool against her palm, and wondered what it cost to be the kind of person who could make threats disappear with a phone call. What it cost to be the kind of person who needed that power in the first place. Whatever the price, she suspected she was about to learn it, whether she wanted to or not. Sleep didn't come. Lena lay on her futon, staring at ceiling cracks she'd memorized months ago, listening to footsteps in the hallway that made her flinch every time. The security team Adrian had posted was invisible from her apartment, but knowing they were there felt like wearing someone else's clothes. Necessary, but uncomfortable. A constant reminder that her life no longer fit right. At 4:30 a.m., she gave up, showered in water that never got properly hot, and dressed for her shift. The mirror showed someone who looked like her but hollowed out, purple shadows under eyes that had seen too much in too few hours. She covered what she could with makeup that was running low and told herself she looked fine. The lie didn't stick, but she wore it anyway. The new door lock gleamed in the early light. Kincaid's people had installed it sometime after midnight. She'd heard the drilling through her half-sleep, men's voices low and professional. It was better than the old one, stronger. The kind of lock that said someone inside was worth protecting. Lena hated it irrationally. She locked it behind her anyway and took the stairs down past Mrs. Chen's apartment with its smell of ginger and star anise, past the couple on 3 who fought every Thursday, past the student on 2 who played guitar at odd hours. Normal people living normal lives without billionaire saviors or broken door frames or debts that turned into something else entirely. The security car was still at the curb. Different vehicle, same presence. A man sat in the driver's seat reading something on his phone, but his posture said he was tracking every movement on the street. When Lena emerged, he glanced up, made eye contact just long enough to acknowledge her, then returned to apparent disinterest. She walked past him toward the bus stop, feeling exposed. Watched. The morning air was cold enough to see her breath, and she pulled her jacket tighter, wishing it was thicker, wishing she was anywhere else. The bus was late. It was always late, but today the 15-minute wait felt eternal, standing under the plexiglass shelter with its cracked panel and graffiti that had been there so long it qualified as permanent. An old man sat on the bench muttering to himself. A woman in scrubs scrolled through her phone with the 1,000-yard stare of someone working a double shift. Regular people. Regular problems. Lena missed being regular. The cafe was dark when she arrived, and for a moment panic spiked. What if they'd come here too? What if they'd burned it down or smashed the windows or hurt Marcus? But then she saw her manager's battered Honda in the back lot, and the tightness in her chest loosened slightly. Marcus met her at his door looking like he hadn't slept either. "You okay?" "Fine." "Lena." "I said I'm fine." She pushed past him into the familiar smell of coffee grounds and industrial cleaning solution. The espresso machine sat silent, waiting. She could handle that. Machines made sense. They had buttons and steam wands and predictable outcomes. You put in effort and got results. Simple. "Those guys yesterday," Marcus said. "The ones asking for you. They come back?" "No." "You sure?" "They won't be back." She tied her apron, adjusted her broken name tag. "It's handled." Marcus studied her the way he studied the monthly numbers, looking for problems beneath the surface. "If you're in some kind of trouble, I'm not. Because we can figure something out. Extra shifts, advance on your paycheck." "Marcus." She turned to face him, managing something close to a smile. "I appreciate it, really. But it's handled, I promise." He didn't look convinced, but he let it drop, which was all she could ask. The morning routine swallowed them both, prepping syrups, grinding beans, pulling the first test shots to calibrate the machine. Lena found comfort in the ritual, her hands remembering what her brain couldn't focus on. Jenna arrived at 6 talking about some party she'd been to and some guy who'd given her his number, and did Lena think she should text him or wait a day? Normal problems. Normal life. Lena made appropriate noises and felt like she was watching from underwater. The first customer rush started. Orders piled up. Lena made drinks on autopilot, her body efficient even when her mind wandered. She kept checking the clock, kept watching the door. Tuesday morning, 7:33 a.m. approaching. Would he come? After last night, after everything, would Adrian Vale still show up for his ritual coffee and silent observation? Part of her hoped not. Part of her dreaded the absence more than she'd admit. At 7:31, the door chimed, and she knew without looking. He came in like he always did, quietly, with that economy of movement that made other people seem loud by comparison. Same dark suit, different tie, same winter storm eyes finding her immediately. But something was different today. The careful distance he'd always maintained felt thinner somehow, like a wall with cracks showing through. He sat in his corner booth, waited. Jenna elbowed her. "Your stalker's early." "He's not." Lena stopped. What was Adrian Vale? Customer, creditor, savior, threat. All of the above and none of them. "I'll take it." She made his black coffee the way he liked it. Actually, she had no idea how he liked it because he never sent it back, never asked for modifications, just drank whatever she brought him. She carried it to the corner booth, feeling every step, hyper-aware of his attention. "Good morning." His voice was the same as always, polite, neutral, like he hadn't broken into her building 9 hours ago. "Is it?" Lena set the cup down harder than necessary. Coffee sloshed. "Sorry. Long night." "I imagine so." "Your people installed a new lock. I noticed the old one was damaged. Because your people broke it. Because men threatening you broke it. My people fixed it." Adrian wrapped his hands around the coffee cup but didn't drink. "Would you prefer I'd left it hanging off the hinges?" Lena wanted to say yes out of pure spite, but that was childish and they both knew it. She glanced back at the counter where Marcus was watching them with poorly disguised curiosity. "I should get back to work." "Lena." Just her name. She stopped. "Are you angry?" "I don't know what I am." "Fair enough." He finally sipped the coffee. "For what it's worth, I meant what I said. You don't owe me anything. Everyone keeps telling me that. You, Kincaid. But nobody pays $73,000 without wanting something back. That's not how the world works. Maybe not your world. And what world do you live in?" The question came out sharper than intended. She was tired, wired on too much coffee and too little sleep, and the careful politeness she usually wrapped around her words had worn thin. One where you can just make problems disappear with a phone call? Where people run because you tell them to? Where you watch baristas for months and call it protection? Adrian set his cup down carefully. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Not anger exactly, more like recognition. Like he'd been waiting for her to push back and was almost relieved she finally had. "Yes," he said simply. "That's the world I live in. And last night, for a few hours, it was the world that kept you safe. If you want to be angry about that, be angry. But don't pretend you had better options." He was right, and she hated it. Hated that he'd seen her desperate and broken. Hated that she'd needed saving. Hated that some part of her was grateful, and that gratitude felt like a trap closing around her neck. "I should get back to work," she repeated. "You should." But he caught her wrist as she turned, not hard, just enough pressure to stop her. His hand was warm. "Thursday. Same time?" "Why?" "Because I like the coffee." "You haven't touched it." "I like watching you make it." He released her wrist. "Thursday, if you want." Lena walked back to the counter without answering, feeling his eyes track her movement. Jenna immediately descended. "What did he say? Did he ask you out? Please tell me there was asking out." "He ordered coffee." For 45 minutes of eye contact, that man wants more than coffee. Drop it, Jenna. "I'm just saying, but drop it." Something in her voice made Jenna step back, hands raised. "Okay, dropped. But if you're not interested, can I have him? Because that is a whole lot of dangerous, gorgeous, and I have terrible taste in men." Lena didn't answer. She made drinks and took orders and tried not to think about the way Adrian's hand had felt around her wrist. Firm, but careful. Like he knew exactly how much pressure he was using and where the line was. Control and restraint in equal measure. He left at 8:17 earlier than usual. Left the $50 bill under his cup like always. Lena pocketed it without comment and told herself she wasn't disappointed by his early departure. The rest of the shift dragged. By 2 p.m., when a replacement arrived, Lena felt scraped hollow. She changed out of her work clothes in the tiny employee bathroom, caught sight of her reflection, and barely recognized the woman staring back. When had she gotten so thin? When had her eyes developed that hunted look? The bus ride home was packed with afternoon crowds, and she stood in the aisle swaying with the stops, surrounded by strangers who didn't know her name or her debt, or the fact that she'd been saved by a man who collected people the way other people collected art. The security car was still outside her building. Different shift, she assumed. Same purpose. She nodded to the driver as she passed and wondered how long Adrian planned to keep this up. A week? A month? Forever? What was the protocol for protection you didn't ask for? Her apartment felt different with the new lock, safer and more confining simultaneously. She deadbolted it behind her and stood in the middle of the tiny space trying to figure out what to do with herself. Normally she'd collapse on the futon and sleep through the afternoon, but her brain was too loud, thoughts circling like sharks. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Lena's pulse spiked before she remembered. They were gone. Paid off. Adrian had made them disappear. She answered cautiously. Hello? Miss Carter, Kincaid. The gray-haired man's voice, crisp and professional. I wanted to follow up on last night. Everything's fine. Good. I've confirmed with the collection agency that your debt has been fully satisfied and your file closed. You shouldn't receive any further contact from them or their associates. Relief hit like a drug. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank Mr. Vale. A pause. He's also arranged for a security detail to remain on your building for the next 2 weeks. Just a precaution. 2 weeks seems excessive. Mr. Vale doesn't take chances with people under his protection. That word again. Protection. Like she was a possession now. Property. What happens after 2 weeks? We reassess. If there's no indication of retaliation or residual threat, the detail withdraws. And if there is, then we handle it. Kincaid's tone suggested handling it would be thorough and final. In the meantime, I've sent contact information to your phone. If anything concerns you, anything at all, call immediately. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess. Just call. I appreciate it, but, Miss Carter. He cut her off gently. This isn't optional. Mr. Vale has made your safety a priority. That means we take it seriously, even if you'd prefer we didn't. Accept the help it's already given. The line disconnected before she could argue. Lena looked at her phone. Sure enough, 3 new contacts had appeared. Kincaid, a number labeled simply Security, and one labeled Adrian Vale, Direct. The last one made her stomach flip. She had his direct number, could call him right now, say anything, ask anything. She put the phone down and backed away from it like it might bite. Instead, she opened her laptop, ancient and slow, and pulled up her mother's hospital account. The bills that had been drowning her, pages of charges and medical terminology she didn't understand, now showed a zero balance. Paid in full. Every cent. The relief should have been overwhelming, but instead it felt hollow. Someone else's money. Someone else's solution. Her problem solved by erasing her agency entirely. A knock at the door made her jump. She looked through the new peephole, fancy, wide angle, probably cost more than her security deposit, and saw an unfamiliar young woman holding a clipboard. Yes? Lena called through the door. Delivery for Lena Carter. I didn't order anything. It's from Adrian Vale. Of course it was. Lena unlocked the door, keeping the chain engaged, and peered through the gap. The woman looked professional, bored, like she made weird deliveries for rich people all the time. She held up a large manila envelope. Just needs your signature. Lena took the clipboard, signed, and accepted the envelope through the gap. The woman left without ceremony. Lena relocked the door and stared at the package like it might explode. Inside was a new phone. Expensive, latest model, the kind she'd looked at in store windows and never considered actually owning. A note in precise handwriting read, "Your old phone's security was compromised. This one isn't. AV." Underneath was a stack of papers. Legal documents. She skimmed them, her stomach sinking with each page. Debt satisfaction agreement, non-disclosure clause, liability waiver, and at the bottom, a contract. Not employment, not a loan. Something else entirely. The language was dense, but the meaning was clear. Adrian Vale had purchased her debt and converted it into a protection arrangement. She lived under his aegis now. He provided security and financial stability. She provided nothing. There was no quid pro quo. No services rendered, just his resources deployed on her behalf in exchange for her acceptance. It should have felt like a gift. Instead, it felt like a caller. She read it 3 times, looking for the trap, the hidden clause, the thing she'd missed. But it was straightforward to the point of bizarre. He wanted nothing from her, expected nothing, just wanted her safe and financially stable, And that was apparently sufficient motivation for a man who could buy buildings. The phone at the bottom of the envelope sat like an accusation. She turned it on. It powered up immediately, already configured, her number transferred. 3 contacts preloaded: Kincaid, Security, Adrian Vale, Direct. She almost threw it across the room. Almost. But that would have been childish and wasteful, and she was practical enough to recognize a useful tool even when it came wrapped in implications. Her old phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number, except she knew exactly who it was. The contract is a formality. You can shred it if you want. Nothing changes either way. A V. Lena typed back fast before she could overthink it. Why are you doing this? The response came within seconds. Because I can. Because you needed it. Because the world is full of people who take and very few who give back. Pick whichever reason bothers you least. None of them bother me less. Then invent your own reason. I won't correct you. She stared at the message, at the phone, at the contract spread across her futon. This was insane. This was a stranger inserting himself into her life and rearranging it to his specifications, and she should have been furious. Should have told him to back off, to take his money and his security and his expensive phones and leave her alone. Except her door had a lock that worked. Her debt was gone, her mother's medical bills were paid. And for the first time in 6 months, she could breathe without calculating how much oxygen cost. Thank you, she finally typed. Inadequate but true. You're welcome. See you Thursday. The casualness of it made her want to scream. See you Thursday. Like they were friends grabbing coffee, not a billionaire and the barista he'd decided to collect. But arguing via text felt pathetic, so she put the phone down and gathered the contract pages, squaring them into a neat stack. She didn't shred them, filed them instead in the folder where she kept important documents: lease, birth certificate, social security card. Evidence that this had happened. That her life had pivoted on an axis she didn't control and might never understand. The rest of the day passed in a strange fugue state. She ate because she was supposed to, not because she was hungry. Called the hospital and confirmed her mother's bills were settled. Her mother was asleep, sedated for pain management, so Lena didn't visit. Told herself it was because visiting hours were limited. Knew it was because she couldn't face her mother's questions about how the money had materialized. Evening came. Night fell. The security car outside changed shifts again. Lena watched from her window, tracking the handoff. Smooth, professional, military precise. These weren't rent-a-cops. These were Adrian's people, and whatever he paid them, it was enough to maintain discipline. She slept better than she had in months, hated herself a little for it. Wednesday passed in a blur of coffee orders and Jenna's running commentary about everything and nothing. The cafe felt normal, comforting. The one piece of her life that Adrian Vale hadn't touched or rearranged or improved. She clung to it harder than she meant to. Thursday morning arrived with frost on the windows and her alarm going off at 4:30. Lena dressed carefully, which annoyed her because she shouldn't care what she wore to make coffee. But she changed her shirt twice and put on lip gloss and told herself it was just about looking professional. The lie was transparent, but she wore it anyway. Adrian arrived at 7:33 exactly. Same booth, same black coffee, same unnerving focus that made her feel seen in ways that were uncomfortable and addictive simultaneously. Lena brought him his coffee without being asked. "Good morning," he said. "Morning." She set the cup down. Didn't spill this time. "I got your delivery." "Good." "The phone's nice." "It's functional." "The contract was interesting." "It's unnecessary. I told you that." "Yeah, but I read it anyway." Lena glanced back at the counter. Jenna was distracted with a complicated order. Marcus in the back office. They were as private as they'd get in a public space. "I don't understand you." "Most people don't." "That's not an answer." "No," Adrian agreed. "But it's true." He finally looked up from his coffee, meeting her eyes directly. "What do you want to know?" Everything. Nothing. How to exist in the space between gratitude and resentment he'd created. Why me specifically? And don't say it's because I was nice to your friend once. That's not proportional. Proportional to what? To $73,000 in security details and new phones. Maybe I have a different sense of proportion than you. He sipped his coffee. Or maybe I'm just bored and helping you is more interesting than most of my obligations. I'm not a hobby. No, you're a person who deserves better than debt collectors breaking down your door at midnight. I had the means to fix that, so I did. It's not complicated. It feels complicated. Only because you're looking for hidden agendas. Adrian leaned back, studying her. I promise you, Lena, if I wanted something from you, I'd ask. I don't collect debts I expect repaid. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? You live your life. I live mine. Sometimes they intersect, that's all. Couldn't be that simple. Nothing was that simple. But the way he said it, calm and final, made arguing feel pointless. Like he'd already decided the shape of this thing between them, and she could either accept it or exhaust herself fighting. I should get back to work, she said for the third time in as many meetings. You should. But he smiled slightly, barely a curve of his mouth, but there. Thursday's your late shift, isn't it? How do you… She stopped. Of course he knew. He probably knew her entire schedule, her routes, her habits. The thought should have been creepy, but instead it was just factual. Adrian Vale paid attention. That was what he did. Yeah, I'm here until 8. Be careful going home. I have a security detail. Still, his expression shifted, something darker moving behind his eyes. The people I removed were opportunistic, not organized, but word gets around when debts change hands. Someone might take an interest. In me? I'm nobody. You're under my protection. That makes you somebody. Whether you like it or not. The words should have felt like a threat. Instead, they felt like a promise. Lena didn't know which bothered her more. She went back to work, made drinks, took orders. Watched Adrian sit in his corner booth until 8:47 when he left his 50 under the cup and walked out into the Thursday morning like a man who'd never had to worry about bus schedules or broken locks or debts that grew teeth. Jenna materialized immediately. You need to hit that. Jenna, I'm serious. That man looks at you like you're the only thing in the room worth seeing, and he tips like a drug dealer. Those are green flags. Green flags for what? For literally everything, rich, protective, hot in that scary way that's actually hotter. If you don't want him, I don't. The lie came out automatic. Then you won't mind if I slide him my number next time? Lena minded. Lena. She minded a lot, and she didn't have the right to mind, and that contradiction lived in her chest like heartburn. Do whatever you want. Jenna laughed. You're a terrible liar, but it's fine. I wouldn't actually. Professional courtesy. He's clearly your weirdo stalker. He's not a stalker. So you do like him. I didn't say that. You didn't say you didn't. Jenna grinned. I'm just saying, if a rich hot guy paid off my debt and posted armed guards outside my apartment, I'd be rethinking my stance on casual dating. It's not like that. What's it like then? Lena didn't have an answer, didn't know how to explain that Adrian Vale had reached into her life and rearranged it without permission, and somehow that felt like both violence and salvation, that she was angry and grateful and confused and something else she couldn't name. It's complicated, she finally said. The good stuff usually is. Jenna squeezed her shoulder. Just don't overthink it. Rich guys are weird. Roll with it. If only it were that simple. The late shift dragged. Fewer customers, more time to think, which was the opposite of what Lena needed. By the time 8 o'clock hit, she was exhausted in a bone-deep way that had nothing to do with physical labor. She changed clothes, grabbed her bag, and pushed out into the Thursday night. The temperature had dropped hard. Her breath fogged in the streetlight glow. The bus stop was 2 blocks away, and she started walking, hands shoved in her jacket pockets. The security car was nowhere visible. Lena stopped, looked around. The street was mostly empty. A few people walking dogs, someone smoking outside the bodega, normal city night. But no black sedan. No professional driver pretending disinterest. Nothing. Her phone buzzed. New message from the number labeled security. Detail called away for emergency, replacement en route. Stay in populated area. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes. That was nothing. That was fine. She could wait in the cafe, or the bodega, or literally anywhere with witnesses and fluorescent lighting. Except something felt wrong. Lena had spent 6 months living on the knife edge of danger. She'd developed instincts, and those instincts were screaming now, primitive hindbrain alarm bells that bypassed logic entirely. She turned back toward the cafe. A man stepped out from the alley beside it. Then another. 3 total. Spread out to cut off her angles. Not the same men from her apartment, different faces, same energy, same purpose. The leader smiled. Lena Carter, heard you had some debts cleared recently. That's nice, real nice. But see, we had a stake in that income stream, and now it's gone. So we figure you owe us. Call it a finder's fee. Lena backed up. The street was empty now. Where had everyone gone? I don't owe you anything. That's not how our boss sees it. And what the boss says goes, he gestured to his friends. Now you can come easy or hard. Your call. But either way, you're coming. She ran. Stupid maybe. Futile definitely. But standing still felt like dying, so she ran, sneakers slapping pavement, bag bouncing against her hip. Made it half a block before someone grabbed her from behind. Where had he come from? Had there been 4? Had she miscounted? And dragged her backward. Lena screamed, kicked, connected with something soft and heard a grunt of pain. Her self-defense training from a free clinic 2 years ago came back in fragments. Go for eyes, throat, groin, make noise. Never stop fighting. She followed through, elbowed her ribs, heel down someone's shin, teeth finding a hand that smelled like cigarettes and sweat. Someone hit her. Not hard enough to drop her, but hard enough to blur her vision. She tasted copper. The ground tilted. Hands dragged her toward a van she hadn't noticed before. Then headlights flooded the street like a sunrise. Tires screamed. A car, black, sleek, moving too fast, jumped the curb and slammed to a stop between Lena and the van. Doors opened and men poured out, moving like violence choreographed, smooth and brutal simultaneously. Adrian was the last one out. He looked at Lena first. She was on the ground, bleeding from her mouth, breathing hard. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, got colder, more focused. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "that's twice now." The leader tried to run, got 3 steps before one of Adrian's people clotheslined him into the pavement. The others were already down, professionally and efficiently disabled. It took maybe 20 seconds total. Adrian crouched beside Lena. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "You're bleeding." "I said I'm fine." But her hands were shaking and her voice cracked and she wasn't fine at all. Adrian saw it, helped her stand with careful pressure under her elbow. "Get them in the van," he told his people. "I'll deal with them later." "What are you going to do?" Lena asked. "Make sure this doesn't happen a 3rd time." The way he said it promised things Lena didn't want to imagine. She watched his people load the attackers into their own van with efficient brutality. Nobody was gentle. Nobody apologized for the violence. Adrian guided her toward his car. "I'm taking you home." The security detail was deliberately pulled away. "Someone wanted you alone." His jaw tightened. They won't make that mistake again. They got in the car. It smelled like leather and money. Adrian drove himself, which surprised her somehow. She'd expected chauffeurs, drivers, but his hands on the wheel were steady and sure, navigating city streets with casual precision. "I'm sorry," he said, after 3 blocks of silence. "For what?" "For not anticipating this. For thinking local muscle would accept the situation and move on. I underestimated their stupidity." "It's not your fault." "Yes, it is." He glanced at her. "You're my responsibility now. That means when you get hurt, it's because I failed to protect you properly." "I'm not your responsibility." "Yes, you are." No room for argument, just fact. "And I take my responsibilities seriously." They pulled up outside her building. Adrian killed the engine but didn't get out. "I need you to understand something. What happened tonight wasn't random. Someone is testing boundaries, seeing what they can get away with. And until I identify who, you're not safe." "So what do you want me to do?" "Move." Lena stared at him. "What?" "I have a property downtown, secure building, 24-hour security. You'd be safe there." "I'm not moving in with you." "I didn't ask you to. I have an apartment in the building I don't use. You'd have complete privacy and independence. Just better locks." "Adrian, or don't move. Stay here. But understand that if you do, I'm posting permanent security on your floor, in the hallway, right outside your door, because I'm not having this conversation a 3rd time. I'm not watching you get hurt because you're stubborn." It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. And Lena realized with sudden clarity that arguing was pointless. Adrian Vale had decided she was under his protection, and that was that. She could accept it gracefully or make it difficult, but the outcome was already determined. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "Think fast. I want you moved by Monday." "That's 3 days." "Is it?" He looked at her like time was a suggestion he tolerated. "I'll have Kincaid coordinate logistics. Your choice on the apartment. But Lena," he caught her hand. Same careful pressure, same precise control. "This is me asking, not demanding. You can say no, but if you do, understand what you're choosing." She understood. She was choosing pride over safety, independence over protection, the illusion of control over the reality that her life had already been rearranged, whether she acknowledged it or not. "I'll think about it," she repeated. Adrian nodded. Let her go. Thursday. Same time? Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. "You don't give up." "No, I don't." He opened his door, came around to open hers, walked her to her building entrance where a different security team was already posted. "Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow." Then he was gone, and Lena was alone with her thoughts and her bleeding lip and the growing certainty that her life had become something she barely recognized. She went upstairs, locked her door, stood in her tiny apartment that had felt like an achievement and now felt like a cage, and wondered what it cost to accept help from someone who made problems disappear but left new complications in their place. Her phone buzzed. Message from Adrian. "I mean it. You're not alone in this. Whatever you choose, I'm here." Lena read it 3 times before responding. Why? Because someone needs to be. It wasn't a real answer, but somehow, impossibly, it was enough. For now. Friday morning came with rain that turned the city gray and mean. Lena stood at her window with coffee going cold in her hands, watching water sheet down glass and blur the security car below into an abstract smudge of black paint. Her lip had swelled overnight, purple and tender, a physical reminder that her problems had teeth even when the debt didn't. She'd called out sick from work, first time in 8 months. Marcus had sounded concerned but didn't push, just told her to rest and feel better. Jenna had texted 17 times asking if she was dying, and did she need anything, and also had she seen the hot guy recently because Jenna was developing theories. Lena hadn't responded, didn't know how to explain that the hot guy was currently rearranging her entire existence and she was too tired to fight about it. Her phone rang. Not a text. An actual call from Kincaid. "Miss Carter, I trust you slept well?" "Not really." "Understandable. I'm calling about the apartment situation. Mr. Vale asked me to coordinate. I haven't decided yet." "I understand, but may I walk you through the options anyway? No commitment, just information." His voice had that professional patience that made refusing feel petty. Lena hated it. "Fine, talk." Kincaid outlined 3 properties, all downtown, all secure, all absurdly nice based on his descriptions. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern appliances, concierge service, the works. He made it sound like he was discussing hotel amenities instead of fundamentally altering where she lived. "The third option is what Mr. Vale recommends," Kincaid finished. 15th floor, corner unit, 2-bedroom. Building has excellent security and you'd have access to all amenities, gym, pool, business center. "I can't afford any of this." "There's no rent, Mr. Vale owns the building." "Of course he does." Lena pressed her forehead against the cool window glass. "And what happens when I want to leave? When this protection arrangement ends? Do I just get kicked out?" "The apartment is yours as long as you want it. No conditions, no time limit. Mr. Vale's been very clear on that point." It was too much, too generous, too everything. People didn't just hand you apartments and walk away. There were always strings, always expectations, always the moment when they called in favors and you realized the gift was a leash all along. "I need to think about it," Lena said. "Of course. Though Mr. Vale did mention he'd prefer a decision by tomorrow, for security purposes." "He can prefer whatever he wants." "Miss Carter." Kincaid's tone shifted slightly. More human, less professional. "I've worked for Adrian Vale for 6 years. In that time, I've seen him do exactly 3 things that weren't calculated business decisions. This is one of them. He's not trying to control you. He's trying to keep you alive. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it feels pretty similar. Then you're not standing in the right place. The men who came after you last night, they're foot soldiers. Disposable. But someone sent them. Someone with enough juice to pull security details away and coordinate an ambush. That person is still out there, still interested, and until Mr. Vale finds them, you're a target. He paused. Moving won't fix everything, but it'll make you harder to find. And right now, that matters. The rain picked up outside. Somewhere below a car horn blared. Normal city sounds. Normal life. Except nothing was normal anymore, and pretending otherwise was just willful blindness. Send me the address, Lena said quietly. For the third apartment, I'll look at it. I'll have a car pick you up this afternoon. 2 o'clock work? Fine. And Miss Carter, you're making the right choice. Am I? But Kincaid had already hung up. Lena spent the next 3 hours trying to convince herself this was reasonable, that accepting help wasn't the same as surrendering, that Adrian Vale's protection was a tool she could use without becoming dependent on it. The mental gymnastics exhausted her more than a double shift. At 1:45, she changed into clothes that didn't have coffee stains and tried to make her swollen lip less obvious with makeup that didn't quite work. The result looked like she'd lost a fight, which wasn't far from the truth. She grabbed her bag and headed downstairs. The car waiting wasn't the usual security sedan. This was something else. Town car, driver in actual livery, the kind of vehicle that screamed money so loud it made her teeth hurt. The driver opened the door without comment, and she slid into leather seats that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Downtown passed outside the tinted windows. The city transformed as they drove, rough edges smoothing out, graffiti giving way to murals, bodegas becoming boutiques. By the time they pulled up to a glass tower with a doorman and actual marble in the lobby, Lena felt like she'd crossed into foreign territory. Kincaid met her in the lobby. Miss Carter, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? Always. He gestured toward the elevators. Shall we? The building was obscene. That was the only word for it. Everything gleamed. Everything matched. The elevator played music that was probably supposed to be soothing, but just made Lena feel poor. They rose 15 floors in silence that was somehow louder than conversation. The apartment was worse. No, not worse. Better. Too much better. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Kitchen with appliances Lena didn't know the names of. Bathrooms with heated floors and rainfall showers. 2 bedrooms, both bigger than her entire current apartment. It was the kind of place she'd scrolled past on rental sites and laughed because who actually lived like this? The building has 24-hour concierge, Kincaid explained, walking her through. Security at all entrances, keycard access. Cameras in common areas. Parking garage requires separate clearance. In terms of keeping you safe, this is about as good as it gets without moving into an actual fortress. Lena stood in the middle of the living room, feeling like an imposter. I make $9.50 an hour plus tips. I'm aware. So you understand how insane this is. Me living here, it's like putting a goldfish in the ocean. Mr. Vale would argue you're not a goldfish. You're a person who deserves security and comfort. The fact that you haven't had it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Easy for him to say. He's never been broke. Actually, Kincaid said carefully, you'd be surprised. But that's his story to tell, not mine. He pulled out a key card, held it up. This is yours if you want it. Move in this weekend, next month, never. Your choice. But the option stands. Lena took the card. It was warm from his pocket. She turned it over in her fingers, looking at the building logo embossed in gold. What does he get out of this? Peace of mind. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Kincaid checked his watch. I have another appointment. Take your time looking around. The driver will wait as long as you need. He left her alone in the apartment. Lena walked through it again, slower this time, touching surfaces that were cool and perfect. She opened cabinets, fully stocked with dishes and glasses. Checked the fridge, empty but running. Stood at the windows and looked out at a view that made her feel small and elevated simultaneously. This could be hers. All of it, just by saying yes. Just by accepting that Adrian Vale had decided she mattered and was willing to back that decision with resources most people only fantasized about. The smart play was obvious. Take the apartment, stay safe, stop fighting about pride when survival was on the line. But something in her resisted, some stubborn core that remembered who she'd been before debt and danger and mysterious billionaires. The version of herself that had believed independence meant something, that self-sufficiency was worth the struggle. That version felt very far away now. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. Kincaid said you're at the apartment. What do you think? It's too much. It's adequate. It has heated bathroom floors. Is that a problem? I've never even heard of heated bathroom floors before today. Then you'll enjoy discovering them. A pause, then another message. I'm not trying to buy you, Lena. I'm trying to give you options. There's a difference. Everyone keeps saying that. Maybe because it's true. She stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Finally typed, "Why do you care so much?" The response took longer this time. Long enough she thought maybe he wouldn't answer. Then, because someone should. And it might as well be someone who can actually do something about it. It wasn't romantic, wasn't even particularly warm, just pragmatic. But somehow that made it more believable than any pretty words would have been. Adrian Vale saw a problem he could solve and solved it because he could. Simple as that. The fact that the problem was her didn't change the equation. "I'll move in," she typed, "but I'm paying rent." "No." "Adrian, absolutely not. That defeats the entire purpose. You're not my tenant. You're under my protection. The apartment is a tool. You don't pay for tools. I'm not a charity case." "I never said you were, but right now you need help and I have it to give. Take it. Stop making this harder than it is." Lena wanted to argue, wanted to dig her heels in and insist on some version of equality that existed more in theory than practice. But she was tired. So tired. And the apartment was beautiful, and the alternative was her fourth-floor walk-up, with its broken lock and thin walls, and the constant knowledge that danger could walk through the door any time it wanted. "Fine," she sent back. "But I cook for myself. I buy my own food. I'm not living off your charity completely." "Deal. Move in this weekend?" "I guess." Eloquent. "Shut up." She could almost feel him smile through the phone. "Thursday, same time." "You're obsessed with that cafe." "I'm consistent. There's a difference." Lena pocketed her phone and took one last look at the apartment. Her apartment. The weirdness of that would take time to process. She locked up and rode the elevator down, where the driver was still waiting patiently. The ride back to her neighborhood felt like time travel in reverse. Glass towers giving way to brick walk-ups, boutiques becoming bodegas, the city transforming back into the version she recognized. By the time they pulled up to her building, the cognitive dissonance was making her head hurt. "Thank you," she told the driver. He nodded. "Miss Carter." "Mr. Vale asked me to tell you he'll have movers available whenever you're ready. Just call." Of course he did, because Adrian Vale thought of everything. Lena climbed the stairs to her apartment, suddenly seeing it through new eyes. The water-stained ceiling, the radiator that clanked, the walls so thin she could hear Mrs. Chen's television through them. It had been home. Now it just felt temporary. A placeholder she'd outgrown without meaning to. She started packing that night. Not everything. Just essentials. Clothes, toiletries, the few personal items that mattered. Her laptop. Photos of her mother from before the sickness. The ceramic mug she'd bought at a thrift store because it had a chip that made it cheap. Small things that added up to a life. By Saturday morning, she had 3 boxes and 2 suitcases. Pathetic, really. 26 years reduced to cargo that fit in a sedan trunk. But it felt right somehow. Clean. Like she was shedding a skin she'd outgrown. The movers Adrian sent were efficient and professional and never once commented on how little she had. They loaded everything in 20 minutes, left her apartment looking empty and sad. She did a final walkthrough, checking closets and under furniture, finding dust bunnies and a pen she'd been looking for, and nothing else. Mrs. Chen caught her in the hallway. "You moving out?" "Yeah, new place." "That boy? The one with the car?" Lena didn't bother correcting her. "Something like that." "Good. You deserve nice things. Work too hard to live in this dump." Mrs. Chen patted her arm with surprising strength. "You be happy, okay?" "I'll try." "Don't try. Do." Then she shuffled back into her apartment, trailing the smell of star anise and opinions. The drive downtown felt final. Lena watched her neighborhood disappear in the side mirror and felt something loosen in her chest. Not quite relief, not quite sadness. Just change, inevitable and strange. The building doorman greeted her by name. The elevator recognized her key card. The apartment waited exactly as she'd left it, patient and perfect and ready. She directed the movers on where to put her pathetic pile of belongings. They looked lost in so much space, and tipped them from the cash Adrian had pressed into her hand earlier with the words, "for the help," like she was the one doing him a favor. When everyone left and she was alone, Lena stood in the middle of her new living room and tried to feel something other than displaced. The view was incredible. The silence was profound. Everything smelled new and expensive and completely unfamiliar. She unpacked mechanically, hung clothes in a closet bigger than her old bedroom, put toiletries in a bathroom that could have fit a small car, set up her laptop on a desk that looked like modern art. Every action felt borrowed, like she was playing house in someone else's life. Her phone rang. Adrian, she answered. "I moved in." "Good, how is it?" "Weird." "You'll adjust." Background noise filtered through, voices, movement. He was somewhere busy. "I wanted to tell you in person, but I'm in meetings all weekend. Something's come up, work-related. I need to handle it." "Okay." "The security detail stays on you. Kincaid has your schedule. Don't go anywhere alone until I clear it." "Adrian, not negotiable. Someone's still looking for you, and I'm not taking chances." His voice dropped. "I mean it, Lena. Stay visible. Stay safe." "When are you back?" "Monday, maybe Tuesday. Depends." A pause. "Will you be all right?" The question surprised her, like her comfort actually mattered to him. "I'll survive." "That's not what I asked." "I'll be fine. Go do your business thing." "I'll call you." He hesitated. "And Lena? Thank you." "For what?" "For trusting me. I know it's not easy." The line went dead before she could respond. Lena stared at her phone, at her reflection in the window behind it, and wondered when exactly she'd started trusting Adrian Vale. When had that happened? When had the mysterious corner booth stalker become the person she called in emergencies? The weekend passed slowly. She explored the building, gym she didn't use, pool she didn't swim in, business center she had no business being in. Other residents nodded politely, clearly placing her as new, possibly judging her for the yoga pants and thrift store jacket. She felt their assessment and didn't care. Let them wonder. Saturday night, she video called her mother at the hospital. The treatment was working, slowly, painfully, but working. Her mother looked better, less gray, more present. "Where are you?" her mother asked, squinting at the background. "That's not your apartment." "I moved." "When?" "Yesterday. It's a friend's place. I'm staying here for a while." "What friend?" Her mother's eyes sharpened despite the medication. "Lena Marie Carter. What aren't you telling me?" Everything. She wasn't telling her everything. About the debt that didn't exist anymore, the danger that had knocked on doors, the man who'd inserted himself into her life like a parenthetical statement that changed the whole sentence. "Just a friend, Mom. Someone who had space and offered. That's all." Uh-huh. Her mother didn't believe her but was too tired to push. "As long as you're safe." "I'm safe. Promise." They talked for 20 more minutes about nothing important. Hospital food, doctors with terrible bedside manner, the soap opera that played on the waiting room TV, normal things, normal conversation. When they hung up, Lena felt the lie sitting heavy in her stomach. She'd always told her mother everything. Now she was keeping secrets. More evidence that her life had fundamentally shifted. Sunday she went to work. Insisted on it, despite Kincaid's protests. The security detail drove her, waited outside, made her feel simultaneously protected and imprisoned. The cafe was busy with the brunch crowd, and Lena lost herself in the familiar rhythm. Coffee, orders, small talk, repeat. It felt normal. Grounding. Jenna noticed immediately. "You look different." "I got a haircut." "You absolutely did not. But something changed. Did you finally sleep with the hot stalker?" "Jenna, I'm taking that as a yes." "Take it as whatever you want. I'm not discussing my sex life at work." So you admit you have a sex life. I'm not discussing my lack of sex life either. Jenna grinned. You're blushing. That's adorable. But seriously, you seem, I don't know, different, less like you're about to crack. Maybe she was different. Maybe having a working lock in a safe place and one less existential crisis to manage had given her space to breathe. Or maybe she was just good at pretending. Hard to tell anymore. Monday morning, Adrian still wasn't back. Lena went to her shift, came home to the apartment that still didn't feel like home, and tried to establish routines that would make this new life stick. She bought groceries, actual groceries, fresh vegetables and meat that wasn't on sale, and cooked dinner in a kitchen with enough space to move. She ate at a table overlooking the city and felt like an imposter at her own life. Tuesday morning, she was making coffee in her absurdly nice kitchen when her phone rang. Unknown number. Her pulse spiked reflexively before she remembered. Those calls were done. That danger had passed. She answered. Hello? Lena Carter? Male voice, unfamiliar, professional. Who's asking? My name is Vincent Torres. I work for Marcus Lau. I believe you know Mr. Lau. She didn't. I don't. Let me rephrase. Mr. Lau is the gentleman who originally held your debt before it was purchased by Adrian Vale. I'm his legal counsel. Lena's stomach dropped. What do you want? Just to talk. Mr. Lau has some concerns about how the debt transfer was handled, specifically some irregularities in the payment. We'd like to meet, discuss the situation. Completely voluntary, of course. The debt's settled. Adrian paid it in full. So we're told, but there are questions. Paperwork that doesn't quite line up. Nothing major, just details that need clarifying. One meeting, 30 minutes, then we all move on with our lives. I'm not meeting with you. Miss Carter, I understand your hesitation, but this is a simple administrative matter. If you refuse to cooperate, it creates complications, legal complications, for you and for Mr. Vale. I'm sure neither of you want that. It was a threat wrapped in professional courtesy. Lena heard it clearly. I need to talk to my lawyer. You don't have a lawyer, but feel free to consult one. In the meantime, Mr. Lau will be in touch. Have a good day, Miss Carter. He hung up. Lena stood frozen in her fancy kitchen with her expensive coffee and her heart trying to climb out of her throat. This was bad. This was someone poking at Adrian's protection, testing boundaries, looking for weaknesses. And she was the weakness, the soft spot they could press on to make him react. She called Adrian. It went to voicemail. She called Kincaid. He answered on the first ring. Miss Carter? Someone just called me. Vincent Torres. Says he works for Marcus Lau. Says there are problems with the debt payment. Kincaid was quiet for 3 seconds. Then, where are you? My apartment, the new one. Stay there. Don't answer the door. Don't answer your phone unless it's me or Mr. Vale. I'm handling this. What's happening? Someone's testing us, seeing how we respond. Stay calm. Stay inside. We've got this. He hung up too. Everyone hung up on her today. Lena put her phone down carefully and backed away from it like it was dangerous. The apartment suddenly felt less safe. Glass walls became glass cages. The view became exposure. An hour passed. Then 2. No calls. No updates. Lena paced, checked her phone obsessively, and fought the urge to bolt for the door and run somewhere, anywhere. But where would she go? Back to her old apartment? That wouldn't help. And Adrian had told her to stay visible, stay safe. Running was neither. At noon, her phone finally rang. Adrian. She grabbed it. What's happening? You talked to Torres. Not a question, a statement. He called me. Said there were problems with the payment, legal issues. There aren't. It's a pressure play. Someone trying to create leverage. Adrian's voice was tight, controlled, but barely. Marcus Lau is making noise. Claims I muscled into his business without proper authorization. Says the debt transfer violated their terms. Did it? Technically? Maybe. I moved fast and didn't care about paperwork, but that's not what this is about. This is about Marcus losing a revenue stream and wanting compensation, or wanting to establish that I can't just buy people out from under him whenever I feel like it. So what happens now? Now I have a meeting with Marcus. Tonight, we sort this out. What kind of meeting? The kind where we discuss mutual interests and come to an understanding. He paused. I need you to stay at the apartment. Full security lockdown. Kincaid's people are already in the building. No one gets near you, okay? Adrian, I don't want you getting hurt because of me. I won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because Marcus is smart enough to know that hurting me starts a war he can't win. This is business. Uncomfortable, aggressive business, but still business. We'll negotiate. He'll get something. I'll get assurances that you're off limits permanently. Everyone walks away. You make it sound simple. It is simple. The execution's just complicated. He exhaled slowly. I should have seen this coming, should have closed the loopholes. This is my fault. Stop saying that. It's true. I don't care. You saved me. Multiple times. If there's fallout, that's on me too. No, it's not. You didn't ask for any of this. I chose to get involved. That makes it my responsibility. His voice softened slightly. Just stay safe. That's all I need from you. When's the meeting? 8 p.m. I'll call you after. Promise? Promise. The line went dead. Lena sat on her expensive couch in her expensive apartment and felt helpless. Adrian was walking into danger because of her, because he'd decided she mattered and was willing to back that up even when it cost him, and she couldn't do anything but wait and hope he was as untouchable as he seemed. The afternoon dragged. She tried to read, to watch something, to distract herself. Nothing worked. At 7 p.m., Kincaid called to confirm security was in place. At 7:30, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside, the guards positioning themselves. At 7:45, her apartment felt like a luxury bunker. 8 o'clock came and went. No calls, no updates. Just silence, and her imagination running scenarios that got worse with each iteration. Adrian shot. Adrian beaten. Adrian disappearing into whatever darkness men like Marcus Lau operated in. At 9:17, her phone finally rang. It's done, Adrian said. He sounded tired. We have an agreement. What kind of agreement? Marcus gets financial compensation for the disruption to his operation. I get his word, in writing, with witnesses, that you and everyone connected to you are permanently off limits. He violates that. He forfeits everything he just gained, plus penalties that would bankrupt him twice over. He agreed to that? He didn't have a choice. I brought leverage he couldn't match. Adrian paused. You're safe now. Actually safe. This is over. Lena felt something unclench in her chest. Are you okay? I'm fine. Few bruises, maybe. Marcus likes his people to look intimidating, but nothing serious. Few bruises is serious. It's Tuesday. Like that explained anything. I'm coming by. Need to see you. Make sure you understand how the new arrangement works. Adrian, it's late. I'm already in the elevator. The call disconnected. 30 seconds later, someone knocked. Lena checked the peephole. Adrian looking exactly as exhausted as he'd sounded. She opened the door. He looked terrible. His shirt was untucked, tie gone, and yes, there were bruises, one on his jaw, another blooming along his cheekbone. His knuckles were scraped, but his eyes were clear and focused, and entirely on her. You're hurt, Lena said. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Barely. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. This is what handling it looks like. Not pretty, but effective. You shouldn't have... Stop. He caught her shoulders gently. I chose this. All of it. You don't apologize for choices I made. Understand? That's not how responsibility works. It's how mine works. He let her go, moved to the window, looked out at the city. Marcus won't bother you again. Neither will anyone connected to him. But there's something you need to understand. Word's out now. People know you're under my protection. That makes you valuable. Not as a target anymore, but as leverage. Against me. What does that mean? It means if someone wants to pressure me, they might try to get to you. Not to hurt you, just to make me react. To prove they can. He turned back to her. That's why the security stays. Why I need you to be careful. Why this arrangement can't just end because the immediate threat is gone. So I'm a permanent liability. You're a permanent priority. There's a difference. Everyone keeps saying that, and I still don't see it. Adrian crossed to her slowly, stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. The difference is, I don't regret it. Any of it. Even the bruises. Even the meeting with Marcus. Even the fact that my life is now measurably more complicated because of you. I don't regret it. Why not? Because you're worth it. The words hung between them. Simple. Devastating. Lena searched his face for the lie, the angle, the thing she was missing. Found nothing but exhaustion and sincerity and something else she couldn't name. I don't know what to do with that, she finally said. You don't have to do anything. Just accept it. He touched her face carefully, thumb brushing the edge of her still swollen lip. I'm going to keep showing up, keep protecting you, keep making your safety my problem. And you can hate it or accept it or figure out how you feel about it somewhere in between, but it's happening either way. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's true. He dropped his hand. I should go, let you process. But Thursday, same time, I know. Good. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Lena, thank you for not running, for trusting me even when this got messy. It matters. Then he was gone, and she was alone again with heated floors and a view, and the growing certainty that Adrian Vale had become something she couldn't categorize or control or walk away from. And maybe she didn't want to anymore. The pattern established itself over the next 3 weeks like sediment settling. Adrian showed up Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:33 exactly, sat in what Lena had started thinking of as his booth, even though the cafe didn't reserve seating, and watched her work with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but had become familiar instead. They talked more now. Brief conversations when the morning rush allowed, nothing profound, just the accumulated small talk that builds scaffolding between strangers becoming something else. He told her about a deal that had fallen through. She told him about the regular who always ordered decaf but got offended when you remembered. He mentioned his father had died when he was 19. She mentioned her mother was responding to treatment, but the recovery would be long. Neither of them dwelled. They weren't those people yet, the kind who shared wounds like credentials. But the information exchanged meant something anyway. The apartment stopped feeling borrowed around week 2. Lena bought things. A plant that would probably die but seemed worth trying, throw pillows that made the couch less sterile, a coffee maker because using Adrian's felt presumptuous, even though he'd told her everything in the place was hers. Small acts of ownership that said she was staying, that this wasn't temporary anymore. Her mother was discharged on a Wednesday. Lena took the day off to bring her home, except home wasn't the tiny apartment near the hospital anymore. It was the guest bedroom in Lena's new place, the one with the view and the bathroom that didn't require sharing with strangers. Her mother stood in the doorway looking small and uncertain. This is too much, she said. It's what we have. May as well use it. Lena, whose place is this really? And don't say a friend's. Lena helped her mother to the bed, soft and wide and nothing like hospital furniture. It's mine. Someone helped me get it. That's all you need to know. Someone. Her mother's eyes were sharp despite the lingering exhaustion. Someone with money. Someone who wants something. Mom, I'm sick, not stupid. I see the security downstairs, the fancy building, the way you're avoiding details. Who is he? Why do you assume it's a he? Is it? Lena sat on the edge of the bed. Outside the window, the city sprawled in afternoon light. His name is Adrian Vale. I don't know what he is. Someone who decided I mattered, who paid off the debt before I could drown in it, who keeps showing up even though I've given him every reason not to. And what does he want in return? Nothing. That's the weird part. He just wants me safe, says I don't owe him anything. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then, no one does something for nothing. You know that. I do, but I also know we had nowhere else to go. The debt was eating us alive. The collectors weren't stopping, and he offered a way out. So I took it. Lena met her mother's eyes. I'm still figuring out what it costs, but right now you're alive and getting better and we have a place to live. That's enough. For now. For now, Lena agreed. Her mother reached out, squeezed her hand. Just be careful. Men with that kind of power, they always collect eventually, even when they say they won't. I know. Do you? Her mother's grip tightened. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a girl falling for her savior, and that never ends well. The words hit harder than intended. Lena pulled her hand back. I'm not falling for anyone. I'm surviving. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. But her voice lacked conviction and they both heard it. Her mother sighed, sinking back into pillows that probably cost more than her weekly medication. I'm too tired to argue, but promise me you'll think about it. About what happens when gratitude turns into something else. When protection becomes possession. I promise. Lena stood. Get some rest. I'll make dinner later. She left her mother sleeping and went to the kitchen where she stood staring at vegetables she'd bought and couldn't remember why. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. How's your mother? Resting? Adjusting? Good. And you? Lena looked at the message for too long before responding. I'm fine. That's not what I asked. She almost smiled despite everything. I'm adjusting too. Thursday. We should talk. About what? Things. In person, not over text. The vagueness felt deliberate. Lena's stomach tightened. Is something wrong? No, just things we need to discuss. Thursday. He didn't elaborate. Lena tried not to read catastrophe into the silence, but her brain had been trained to expect disaster and old habits died hard. She spent the rest of Wednesday cooking food her mother barely touched and pretending everything was fine. Thursday morning came cold and bright. Lena left her mother with instructions and emergency numbers she probably wouldn't need, but it made Lena feel better to list them. The security detail drove her to work. She'd stopped taking the bus after Adrian had quietly suggested the routine made her predictable, and predictable was dangerous. Another small surrender to his version of safety. The cafe was busy. Morning rush hit hard and Lena lost herself in the familiar chaos of orders and steam and caffeine-desperate customers. It felt normal. The one piece of her life Adrian's money hadn't touched or improved. She needed that, needed something that was still entirely hers. At 7:33, Adrian walked in, but he wasn't alone. Two men flanked him. Not his usual security, these were different, older, harder. They wore suits that screamed federal something and expressions that suggested they'd seen everything twice and weren't impressed either time. Adrian looked tense, more than usual. The careful control he always maintained had cracks showing through. He caught Lena's eye, shook his head slightly. Don't react. She didn't. Made his coffee mechanically, hands steady even though her pulse was doing complicated things. When she brought it to the booth, the two men were sitting across from him. One of them looked at her with professional assessment, cataloging height, weight, threat level, probably her shoe size too. Miss Carter, Adrian's voice was carefully neutral. These gentlemen are from the Federal Organized Crime Task Force. They have questions about Marcus Lau. The world tilted. Lena set the coffee down carefully. I don't know anything about Marcus Lau. You were listed as one of his debtors. The older agent spoke. Gray hair, salt and pepper stubble, eyes like a tired accountant. Until the debt was transferred to Mr. Vale here, we're investigating Mr. Lau's lending practices. Need to establish a pattern. I borrowed money, that's all. From who specifically? I don't remember. It was 6 months ago. I was desperate. That part was true, at least. The younger agent leaned forward. Mr. Lau's operation has ties to several criminal enterprises. Money laundering, extortion, loan sharking. If you have information about his methods, I don't. I signed papers, got money, made payments until I couldn't anymore. That's everything. The collectors who came to your apartment, the ones who threatened you, did they mention Marcus Lau by name? Lena's mouth went dry. How did they know about that? She looked at Adrian. His expression gave nothing away, but she saw tension in his shoulders. They mentioned owing money, that's all. And Mr. Vale paid off your debt. The older agent turned to Adrian. Interesting timing, right when we started looking into Lau's operations. I didn't know about your investigation. Adrian's voice stayed level. I helped Miss Carter because she needed it. The timing is coincidental. Is it? The younger agent pulled out a folder. You've inserted yourself into 3 of Lau's operations in the past 4 months. Buying out debts, relocating debtors, making his revenue streams disappear. That's not coincidence. That's interference. That's business. That's obstruction if you're disrupting an active investigation. Then charge me. Adrian's tone went cold. But leave Miss Carter out of it. She's not involved in whatever war you think I'm fighting. The older agent studied Adrian for a long moment, then looked at Lena. You're living in one of Mr. Vale's properties now, under his protection. That correct? Yes. And you don't find that arrangement unusual? Man you barely know pays off your debt, sets you up in a luxury apartment, asks nothing in return? I find it generous. Or suspicious. Or generous. Lena's voice hardened. Look, I don't know what you think is happening here, but Adrian helped me when no one else would. If that bothers you, that's your problem. I'm not testifying against him or Marcus Lau or anyone else. I just want to live my life. The agents exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, the older one stood. We'll be in touch. Both of you. If anything changes, if you remember details about Lau's operation, call. He dropped a card on the table. They left. The cafe suddenly felt too quiet. Adrian picked up the card, turned it over once, then pocketed it. I'm sorry. For what? For dragging you into this. I didn't know they were investigating Lau that thoroughly. Should have been more careful. It's fine. It's not. He looked at her finally. Really looked. They're going to keep digging, looking for connections between me and Lau's operation. You're one of those connections now. That puts you back in danger. Different kind, but still danger. So what do we do? You do nothing. Stay clean. Don't talk to them without a lawyer present. I'll handle it. Adrian, this is my fault. I moved too fast, too aggressively. Made Lau look bad to his partners, and now the feds are circling. I need to fix it before you get caught in the middle. Lena slid into the booth across from him, ignored the look Jenna shot her from the counter. Stop trying to protect me from everything. I'm already in the middle. Might as well know what I'm standing in. Adrian was quiet. Then, Marcus Lau runs a lending operation that targets desperate people, offers money at terrible rates, uses violence to collect. I've been systematically buying out his debtors. Not all of them. Just the ones who are drowning. Ones like you. It started as revenge. He'd hurt someone I cared about years ago, but it became something else, a way to take apart his operation piece by piece. And the feds noticed. Apparently, he rubbed his eyes. The bruises from his meeting with Marcus had faded, but new exhaustion had replaced them. They think I'm building a case, or maybe trying to take over his territory. I'm not. I'm just removing his leverage. But intention doesn't matter. Perception does. What happens if they charge you? They won't. I've been careful. Everything I've done is legal, aggressive, but legal. The problem is if they pressure you into testifying about our arrangement. Make it look like I'm running my own operation using former debtors as assets. That's insane. That's how they build cases. Connect dots that don't actually connect until they form a pattern that looks criminal. He met her eyes. I won't let that happen to you, whatever it takes. You can't control federal investigations. No, but I can control the narrative, manage the exposure, make sure you're protected. He paused. There's something else. Marcus reached out. Wants another meeting, says the feds are making him nervous and he needs assurances I'm not cooperating. Are you? No, but he doesn't believe me, thinks I'm playing both sides, setting him up for a fall while staying clean myself. Are you? Adrian almost smiled. Would you believe me if I said no? I don't know. Would you tell me if you were? Probably not. The honesty was stark. But for what it's worth, I'm not working with the feds. I just want Marcus gone. His operation dismantled. The people he's hurt free. If the feds do that for me, great. But I'm not helping them build their case. Lena believed him. Didn't know why, but she did. Maybe because Adrian Vale had proven himself through action, not words. Or maybe because she wanted to believe him, and that was the same thing right now. When's the meeting? She asked. Tonight, neutral ground, his people in mind, very civilized, very dangerous. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. He's going to ask about me, about why you're protecting me. Better if I'm there, show him I'm real, not some strategy piece. Lena, if this goes wrong. If it goes wrong, I'm involved anyway. Might as well be involved where I can see what's happening. Adrian looked like he wanted to argue. Lena watched him calculate, weigh options, run scenarios. Finally, he nodded once. Fine. But you do exactly what I say. No improvising, no heroics. You're there as proof of concept, nothing more. I can handle that. Can you? He leaned forward. Because Marcus Lau is not like the collectors you dealt with. He's smart, ruthless, and very good at finding weaknesses. If he senses any crack between us, any leverage he can exploit, he'll use it. You need to be prepared for that. I am. You're not. But you will be. He stood. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something nice, but not too nice. We're playing this as a legitimate arrangement, business relationship, nothing more. Is that what we are? The question hung between them. Adrian looked at her for a long moment. I don't know what we are. But tonight, that's what we need to be. He left before she could respond. The cafe felt colder without him. Lena went back to work trying not to think about what she'd just agreed to, trying not to wonder if walking into a meeting with Marcus Lau was the stupidest decision she'd ever made or just the latest in a series. Jenna cornered her during the afternoon lull. Who were those guys? Federal agents. What? Not a question. Pure shock. They're investigating someone Adrian knows. Asked me questions about it. And you're okay? I'm fine, it's nothing. That didn't look like nothing. That looked like serious crime TV drama. Jenna grabbed her arm. Lena, if you're in some kind of trouble. I'm not, I promise. Just wrong place, wrong time. They're fishing, that's all. Jenna didn't look convinced. If you need help. I know. Thank you. Lena squeezed her hand. Really? I'm okay. The lie came easier than it should have. Lena finished her shift, went home to an apartment that felt emptier than usual despite her mother sleeping in the next room. She stood in her closet staring at clothes and trying to figure out what you wore to a criminal negotiation. Business relationship, nothing more. She picked black pants and a gray sweater, simple, unremarkable, the kind of outfit that disappeared into backgrounds. Applied minimal makeup, pulled her hair back. When she looked in the mirror, she saw someone who could pass as professional, someone who belonged at a business meeting. The disguise would hold as long as she didn't talk too much. Her mother was awake when she emerged. Where are you going? Meeting with Adrian? Dressed like that? It's a work thing. Her mother's expression sharpened. What kind of work? The boring kind. I'll be back late. Don't wait up. Lena, I have to go. Love you. She left before the questions could multiply. Adrian picked her up at 7 exactly. Different car tonight. Luxury sedan with tinted windows and a driver she didn't recognize. He held the door and she slid in beside him, suddenly aware of how small the space was. His cologne was subtle, expensive, the kind of thing she'd only smelled in department stores she couldn't afford to shop in. You look good, he said. You sound surprised. I'm not, just observant. He handed her a folder. Read this. Background on Marcus. His operation. The key players who will be at the meeting. You need to know who you're dealing with. Lena flipped through pages of information that felt like something from a spy novel. Photos, bios, criminal records. Marcus Lau looked ordinary in his picture. Middle-aged, slightly overweight, the kind of guy you'd pass on the street without noticing. The text underneath made him anything but ordinary. He's connected to a lot of people, Lena said. He's connected to everyone. That's his power. Not violence, relationships, debts owed and favors called in. He's built a network that touches everything from city council to the docks. Taking him down means taking down a dozen other operations. And you're trying to do that alone? I'm trying to do it correctly. The feds want arrests. Headlines. I want his operation dismantled permanently. Those aren't always the same thing. The drive took 40 minutes. They left downtown behind, crossed the river, ended up in an industrial area where streetlights were suggestions and shadows had depth. The car pulled up to a warehouse that looked abandoned, but probably wasn't. Security was visible now, men in dark clothes with the stillness of people comfortable with violence. Last chance to back out, Adrian said. I'm good. Lena, I mean it. If you're not ready, I'm here. Let's go. They got out together. Adrian's hand found the small of her back, guiding her toward the entrance. The touch was possessive and protective simultaneously. She let him lead. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into something that resembled an office. Expensive furniture that clashed with concrete floors, conference table in the center, men stationed around the perimeter. And at the head of the table, Marcus Lau himself, looking exactly like his photo and nothing like it at the same time. Adrian Vale. Marcus stood, extended his hand. Thank you for coming. Marcus, Adrian shook, perfunctory, professional. This is Lena Carter. Marcus's eyes shifted to her. Assessment immediate and thorough. Miss Carter, I've heard a lot about you. Nothing good, I hope. The words came out steadier than she felt. Marcus smiled. Depends on your perspective. Please. Sit. They sat. Marcus across from them, his people fanned out behind. Adrian's security positioned themselves at their backs. The tension in the room was thick enough to taste. So, Marcus folded his hands. The federal investigation. You want to assure me you're not cooperating? I'm not. And yet they came to your cafe this morning, questioned you and Miss Carter. That seems like cooperation. That's called being questioned, not the same thing. From where I sit, it looks very similar. The feds are circling. Your name keeps coming up in contexts that concern me. You've been aggressive about disrupting my operations. One might think you're building a case. One would be wrong. Adrian's voice stayed level. I've been buying out debts because your collection methods offend me. That's business, not cooperation. Business, Marcus laughed. You call it business. I call it war. You've cost me millions in revenue, made me look weak to my partners. And now the feds are using your actions as evidence of systematic intimidation and racketeering. How is that not cooperation? Because I'm not giving them anything. Not testimony, not evidence, not access. What you're seeing is coincidence, nothing more. I don't believe in coincidence. Marcus leaned forward. I believe in patterns. And the pattern here says you're playing me, using Miss Carter and others like her as pawns, positioning yourself as the hero while I take the fall. If you took the fall, it'd be because you earned it. Adrian's tone went colder. Your operation hurts people, destroys lives. I'm just giving some of them a way out. If that makes you look bad, that's on you. The temperature in the room dropped. Marcus's people shifted. Adrian's people responded. Lena felt like she was watching dominoes line up, waiting for someone to tip the first one. Then Marcus looked at her. Miss Carter, do you know what you are to him? What you represent? I'm someone he helped. You're a tax write-off, a PR move. Adrian Vale playing white knight, so when the feds come asking, he has sympathetic examples. Look at all the good I've done. Ignore the fact that I'm destroying my competitor's business in the process. That's not, Lena started. It's exactly true. Marcus smiled. I'm not saying he doesn't care about you. Maybe he does. But don't mistake care for altruism. Everything Adrian does serves a purpose. Even kindness. Adrian's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once. Message received, don't engage. Believe what you want, Adrian said. But I'm not working with the feds. I'm not building a case. I'm just removing your leverage. If that makes your operation unstable, find better business practices. Or I could remove your leverage. Marcus looked pointedly at Lena. Eye for an eye. The threat was unmistakable. Lena's pulse spiked, but she kept her expression neutral. Adrian's hand tightened on hers. You won't. Adrian's voice was absolutely certain. Because if you touch her, every resource I have gets pointed at you. Not your operation, you personally. And I promise you, Marcus, I have resources you can't imagine. This ends one of two ways. You walk away and we maintain the current detente, or you escalate and I end you. Choose. The silence stretched. Marcus studied Adrian like he was a particularly difficult equation. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. You're serious. Completely. You'd start a war over a barista. I'd start a war over anyone under my protection. She's not special in that regard. She's just current. Lena didn't know if that was supposed to reassure her or not. Marcus seemed to find it amusing either way. Fine, Marcus said eventually. I won't touch her or any of your other pet projects, but this stops. No more buying out my debtors. No more interference. You want to play hero, find someone else's operation to dismantle. Deal. With one addition. You forgive all outstanding debts currently in your portfolio. Wipe them clean. Start over with legitimate lending practices or find a new line of work. That's insane. That's my price for leaving you alone. Marcus stared at him. You're asking me to forgive millions in outstanding debt. I'm asking you to stop preying on desperate people. Call it millions or call it conscience. Your choice. And if I refuse, then I keep doing what I've been doing, buying them out one by one, making you look weak and unstable until your partners lose confidence and your operation collapses from internal pressure. Could take months, could take years, but it'll happen. The calculation on Marcus's face was visible. Pride versus pragmatism, revenge versus survival. Lena watched him work through it, saw the moment he decided. Half, Marcus said. I'll forgive half the outstanding debts. The ones with circumstances like Miss Carter's, medical debt, family emergency, circumstances beyond their control. The rest stay active. Take it or leave it. Adrian considered. 75%. 60. And I pick which ones. 70. And I approve the list before you implement. 65. Final offer. Done. Adrian stood, extended his hand. Pleasure doing business. Marcus shook. You're either the most altruistic gangster I've ever met or the smartest businessman. Haven't decided which. Why not both? They left. The warehouse receded behind them and Lena felt like she'd been holding her breath for an hour. In the car, Adrian finally released her hand. She hadn't realized he was still holding it. That went better than expected, he said. He threatened me. He postured. There's a difference. If he was serious, we wouldn't have walked out. Adrian looked at her. You did well. Didn't react. Didn't give him anything to work with. I was terrified. I know. You hit it convincingly. He paused. I meant what I said in there about starting a war. If he'd touched you. I know. And she did. Had seen it in his eyes, heard it in his voice. Adrian Vale protected his own with absolute commitment. The fact that she was his own now should have felt claustrophobic. Instead, it felt like the safest thing in her life. They drove back in comfortable silence. When they reached her building, Adrian walked her up despite her protests, stood in her doorway looking exhausted and wired simultaneously. Get some rest, he said. Thursday, same time. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you, for tonight, for all of it. He touched her face. Brief, careful. You're worth it. Keep remembering that. Then he was gone, and she was alone with her sleeping mother and her racing thoughts, and the growing certainty that whatever was happening between her and Adrian Vale had moved past protection into something she didn't have words for yet. But she would, soon. The weeks following the warehouse meeting felt like living in the eye of a hurricane. Everything around Lena kept spinning, but the center stayed calm, almost unnaturally so. Marcus kept his word about the debt forgiveness. Adrian had shown her the list, names she didn't know but could imagine, people like her who'd been drowning and suddenly found air. The federal agent stopped calling. The security detail became less visible, though Kincaid assured her they were still there, just better at blending. Her mother got stronger. Slowly, with setbacks that felt like gut punches, but the trajectory was upward. She started physical therapy, started talking about going home, though Lena had quietly been paying the rent on her old apartment so there'd still be something to go home to. Started asking fewer questions about Adrian and more questions about when Lena was going to admit she had feelings for him. Lena avoided those conversations the way she avoided thinking about her own heartbeat. Awareness only made it more obvious. Thursday morning arrived cold enough that frost painted patterns on the windows. Lena had stopped working the early shift 2 weeks ago after Adrian had pointed out she didn't need the money anymore and the exhaustion was showing in her face. She'd argued. He'd offered to buy the cafe if it meant she'd rest. She'd taken the later shift starting at 9 and hated that he'd been right about needing it. But this Thursday, she went in early anyway. Needed the routine. Needed the familiar smell of coffee grounds and the sound of the espresso machine and Jenna's running commentary about everything. Marcus was there when she arrived, already prepping for the morning rush. You're early, he said. Couldn't sleep. Everything okay? Everything's fine, just restless. She tied her apron, the fabric worn soft from washing. Her name tag still sat crooked. Some things didn't need fixing. The morning built slowly. Regulars filtered in with their usual orders and their usual small talk. Lena made drinks and took money and felt the day settle into something manageable. At 7:33, the door chimed and Adrian walked in right on schedule, like he'd been doing for months now, like this was the most natural thing in the world. Except today he looked different. Not bad different, just different. He wore jeans instead of his usual suit, a sweater that looked expensive but casual, and he carried a folder that seemed important the way legal documents always seemed important. He sat in his booth, waited. Lena made his coffee and brought it over, Pulse doing complicated things she refused to analyze. No suit today? Day off, sort of. He gestured to the seat across from him. Can you take a break? It's rush hour. Marcus can handle it for 10 minutes, please. Something in his voice made her sit. The folder stayed closed on the table between them like a bomb waiting to go off. Adrian wrapped his hands around the coffee cup, but didn't drink. I need to tell you something, he said. And I need you to let me finish before you react. Lena's stomach dropped. That's never a good opening. It's not a bad one either, just complicated. He opened the folder. Papers inside, dense with text she couldn't read upside down. The federal investigation into Marcus concluded last week. No charges filed. Insufficient evidence. The agents are moving on to other cases. That's good, right? Yes and no. They didn't find evidence because Marcus cleaned up his operation, legitimized his lending practices, hired compliance officers, started following actual regulations. He's still in business, but he's not hurting people anymore. At least not the way he was. Because of what you did. Because of what we negotiated. Yes. Adrian pushed the folder toward her. But there's something else. When I was buying out debts, I created a fund, put money aside for each person I helped. Emergency savings. Something to fall back on if things went bad again. You have one too. Lena looked at the folder like it might bite. How much? 50,000. The number hit like physical force. She couldn't breathe for a second. Adrian, I can't. You can. It's yours. No strings, no conditions, just security in case everything falls apart, in case I'm not around to help. He paused. I wanted you to know it existed, and I wanted to give you a choice. What choice? The apartment, the security, the protection. All of it comes with proximity to me, to my world. And my world is dangerous. You've seen that. The collectors, Marcus, the federal agents. That doesn't go away just because one threat is resolved. There will always be another one, another complication, another risk. What are you saying? I'm saying you have enough money now to leave. Start over somewhere safe, somewhere I'm not. Take your mother. Build a life that doesn't include men who negotiate in warehouses or federal agents asking questions. A normal life, the one you had before I showed up and rearranged everything. Lena stared at him. You're giving me an out. I'm giving you a choice, because you never really had one before. You were drowning, and I threw you a rope, but the rope had complications attached. Now you have options, resources. You can choose differently if you want to. And if I stay? Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe. Or hope. Then you stay knowing what it means. Knowing that my protection comes with exposure. That people will always wonder what you are to me. That danger will always be closer than it should be. And you stay anyway because you want to, not because you need to. The distinction mattered. Lena understood that on some fundamental level. Need created obligation. Want created choice. And Adrian was giving her the ability to choose freely for the first time since this whole thing started. How long do I have to decide? She asked. As long as you need. The money's not going anywhere. Neither is the apartment. But Lena... He reached across the table, caught her hand. I need you to understand something. If you leave, I won't follow. Won't check up on you. Won't send security to watch from a distance. You'll be free. Completely. That's what freedom means. No safety net. Just you building whatever life you want. And if I stay? Then Thursday coffee becomes something we both choose. Not something you feel obligated to show up for. Lena looked at their joined hands. His grip was warm and careful, and exactly the right amount of pressure. She'd gotten used to that. The way he calibrated everything, protection without possession, help without control, proximity without demands. He'd been rewriting the rules the whole time, and she'd been too busy surviving to notice. I need to think, she said finally. I know. He released her hand. Take your time, no pressure, no timeline. Thursday, though, same time? Adrian almost smiled. If you want, I'll let you know. She went back to work, made drinks mechanically while her brain spun through scenarios. Jenna noticed immediately. What did he say? She demanded during a lull. You look like someone told you the world is ending or starting or both. He gave me money, a lot of it. Told me I could leave if I wanted to. Leave where? Him, this, everything. Lena gestured vaguely. Start over somewhere else. And you're considering it? I don't know. Maybe. He said I never had a real choice before. Now I do. Jenna was quiet for a long moment. Then, do you want to leave? I don't know. Lena, come on. I've watched you two dance around each other for months. You light up when he walks in. He looks at you like you're the only person who exists. Whatever this is, it's not just protection. So the real question is, are you scared of staying or scared of what staying means? Both? Fair. Jenna squeezed her shoulder. But running because you're scared is different than leaving because it's right. Make sure you know which one you're doing. The advice stuck. Lena carried it through the rest of her shift, through the bus ride home she insisted on taking instead of the security car, through dinner with her mother who asked questions Lena couldn't answer yet. That night, she sat by the window looking out at the city. 15 floors up, the world looked manageable, small. She could see patterns from here, traffic flowing, lights blinking, life happening in miniature. From this height, danger seemed distant, theoretical, but she knew better, knew that down there, in the spaces between streetlights, threats waited with patient teeth. Her phone rang. Not Adrian. Kincaid. Miss Carter, do you have a moment? Sure. I wanted to follow up on Mr. Vale's offer, make sure you understood the financial arrangements, and answer any questions you might have. It's pretty straightforward. He's giving me money and an exit. He's giving you freedom. There's a difference. Kincaid paused. I've worked for Adrian Vale for a long time, seen him make a lot of decisions. Some good, some questionable. This is the first time I've seen him offer to let someone go. That means something. What does it mean? That he cares more about your well-being than his own comfort. That he'd rather lose you than keep you obligated. In my experience, that's the definition of love, though he'd never use that word. He doesn't owe me love. No, but he's giving it anyway. Whether you take it is up to you. Kincaid's tone softened. I'm not telling you what to decide. Just make sure you're deciding based on what you want, not what you think you should want. Life's too short for should. He hung up. Everyone hung up tonight, apparently. Lena put her phone down and went back to staring at the city. Somewhere out there, Adrian was probably working. Or not working. Living his dangerous, complicated life that he'd offered to let her be part of or leave behind entirely. The choice should have been obvious. Safe money and a fresh start versus proximity to danger and a man she barely understood. Logic said run. Self-preservation said run. But something else, something stubborn and maybe stupid, said stay. She didn't sleep that night, just thought, weighed, calculated different futures until they all blurred together. By morning, she still didn't have an answer, but she had clarity about the question. Did she want a life without Adrian Vale, or did she want to see what staying meant? Friday passed in a fog. Lena worked her shift, came home, helped her mother with exercises, went through motions without really being present. Saturday was worse. Sunday felt eternal. By Monday, she was exhausted from thinking and no closer to a decision. Tuesday morning, she woke up knowing. Just knew. The way you know when a fever breaks or a wound is healing. It wasn't logical, wasn't even smart. But it was true. She texted Adrian. Can we talk? Before Thursday? The response came within minutes. I'll pick you up in an hour. He arrived exactly 60 minutes later in the same casual clothes from last week. They drove without talking, ending up at a park Lena didn't recognize. Trees still bare from winter, grass brown and dormant, but the sun was warm and the silence was comfortable. They walked. Adrian kept his hands in his pockets. Lena kept hers wrapped around a coffee she'd grabbed on the way. Finally, she stopped by a bench that overlooked a frozen pond. I'm not leaving, she said. Adrian went very still. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She turned to face him. You're right. I never had a real choice before. Every decision I made was about survival. This is the first time I get to choose based on what I want instead of what I need. And what I want is to stay. Why? Because leaving feels like running, and I'm tired of running from things. tired of letting fear make decisions. She took a breath. And because Thursday mornings matter, you matter. This weird, complicated thing we have matters. I don't know what it is yet, but I want to find out. Adrian pulled his hands from his pockets, stepped closer. I need you to understand what you're choosing. My world doesn't get safer. The threats just change shape. There will be more meetings like Marcus, more agents asking questions, more danger in corners you can't predict. Are you ready for that? I don't know, but I'm ready to try. That's not the same thing. It's close enough. Lena set her coffee on the bench. Look, I'm not stupid. I know this is complicated. Know there's risk, but there's risk in everything. At least this way I'm choosing my risk. Choosing you, choosing whatever this becomes. And if it becomes something you can't handle, then I leave, for real. No guilt, no obligation, just a clean break. She met his eyes. But I think you're worth the risk. I think this is worth the risk. So I'm staying. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Actually smiled. Wide and genuine, and nothing like the careful control he usually maintained. Okay. Okay? Okay. He pulled her close. Careful. Giving her room to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. For the record, I'm glad. Relieved. Possibly the happiest I've been in years, but I needed you to choose it. Needed to know you wanted this. Not just accepted it. I want it. The words felt true. Scary, but true. I want you, whatever that means. It means Thursday coffee, and Friday dinners, and me showing up too much and you telling me to back off, and us figuring out how two people from completely different worlds make something that works. He touched her face. It means I protect you because I can, and you let me because you trust me, and we build something real instead of something based on debt and danger. That sounds complicated. It will be. He kissed her forehead, light, brief. But I think we can handle complicated. Yeah. Lena leaned into him, feeling his warmth and his steadiness and the complicated truth that she'd chosen this. Actually chosen it. I think we can. They stayed like that for a while, just standing in the winter sun by a frozen pond, holding on to something that looked like a beginning. Eventually they walked back to the car. Adrian drove her home. At her building, he caught her hand before she could get out. Thank you, he said, for staying, for choosing this. It means more than you know. Thank you for giving me the choice. Always. He squeezed her hand once. Thursday? Thursday, same time. I'll be there. Lena went upstairs feeling lighter than she had in months. Her mother was in the kitchen attempting to cook, which was both encouraging and terrifying given her current energy levels. You look different, her mother said. I feel different. Good different? Yeah, I think so. Lena helped her mother sit before she fell over. I'm staying, with Adrian. Whatever that means. I'm staying. Her mother studied her. You're sure? Not even a little, but I'm doing it anyway. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Her mother laughed. Well, at least you're honest about it. Just promise me something. What? If it stops being what you want, you leave. No guilt, no obligation. Just leave, okay? Okay. Lena hugged her. I promise. Good. Her mother hugged back. Tight. Now help me finish this soup before I burn down your fancy apartment. The weeks that followed felt like learning a new language. Adrian showed up Thursday at 7:33 like always, but now Lena sat with him longer. They talked about things that mattered and things that didn't. He told her about his father, who'd built an empire from nothing and died before enjoying it. She told him about her fears that her mother would relapse, that survival was temporary, that happiness was something she'd never learned to trust. He met her mother officially, brought flowers and wine, and that careful courtesy he deployed when he wanted to make good impressions. Her mother interrogated him with surgical precision, asked about intentions and expectations and what exactly his business involved. Adrian answered honestly, more honestly than Lena expected. When he left, her mother turned to Lena and said simply, "He'll do." High praise from someone who trusted no one. Friday dinners became routine. They'd go somewhere different each week, restaurants Adrian knew, places Lena had never heard of, food that made her feel worldly and out of her depth simultaneously. He'd talk about his day. She'd talk about hers. They'd argue about movies and politics and whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Normal things. The kind of things couples did when they were becoming something real. The security detail faded into background noise. Still there, but less obvious. Kincaid checked in weekly, but the calls became shorter, more routine. The federal agents never came back. Marcus Lau's operation legitimized fully. Adrian showed her the paperwork, proof that change was possible even in dirty business. 2 months after the park conversation, Lena quit the cafe. It felt like cutting off a limb at first. The routine had been her anchor for so long. But Adrian was right about her not needing the money. And Jenna had been promoted to manager, so the guilt was manageable. She spent a week feeling lost. Then Adrian suggested she finish her degree. She'd dropped out during her mother's crisis. Never thought she'd go back. But with time and resources, she enrolled part-time in business courses. Figured if she was going to live in Adrian's world, she should understand how it worked. He helped with homework without taking over. Offered advice without mansplaining. Made her feel capable instead of dependent. Her mother's recovery plateaued at 70%. Not perfect, but functional. Good enough to move back to her own place, though Lena had upgraded the apartment significantly and paid the lease 2 years ahead. Good enough to start volunteering at the hospital where she'd been treated, helping other families navigate the nightmare of medical debt. Adrian gave her mother a job. Administrative position in his charitable foundation that Lena hadn't known existed until her mother mentioned it. Turned out Adrian Vale had been quietly funding debt relief programs for years. Medical debt specifically. Her mother helped identify cases, coordinate payments, manage the logistics of saving people who were drowning. "Your boyfriend's sneaky generous," her mother said one Sunday over brunch. "I'm almost mad I can't dislike him." Almost. He's still rich. That's inherently suspicious. Mom. I'm joking. Mostly. She squeezed Lena's hand. But seriously, you're happy. I haven't seen you this happy in years, maybe ever. Hold on to that. I'm trying. Good. Her mother paused. And if he ever hurts you, I'll kill him, just so we're clear. Crystal. 6 months in, Adrian took Lena to meet his partner, the man whose life she'd saved with a free pastry and kindness she barely remembered. His name was David Chen. He owned the building where the cafe was located and 3 others nearby. He looked at Lena with recognition that was almost spiritual. "You're the reason I'm alive," he said simply. "I just gave you a muffin. You gave me a reason to stay. That matters more than you know." They had dinner. David told stories about Adrian from before, the driven kid who'd built an empire through pure stubbornness, who'd never learned to rest, who'd carried his father's legacy like armor. Adrian looked uncomfortable with the attention. Lena loved him more for it. After dinner, walking back to the car, Adrian caught her hand. "I need to tell you something." "That sounds ominous." "It's not. I hope." He stopped, turned to face her. "I'm in love with you. Have been for a while. Since before the warehouse, before the apartment. Probably since you made my coffee wrong that one Tuesday and apologized 3 times. I'm saying it now because I want you to know it's not about obligation or protection or any of the complicated reasons we started. It's just true. And you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." Lena felt her heart do something complicated. "You're in love with me because I made your coffee wrong? I'm in love with you because you cared that you made it wrong. Because you try. Because you're stubborn and brave and kind, even when kindness costs you. Because you chose to stay when leaving would have been easier. Because Thursday mornings are the best part of my week, and it's been that way since the first time I walked in and saw you smiling at customers who didn't deserve it. That's a lot of reasons. I have more if you want." "No, those work." She kissed him. First real kiss, 6 months of dancing around it, finally ending in something simple and perfect. "I love you too. Just so you know. Have for a while. Was waiting for the right time to say it. Is this the right time?" "Close enough." They kissed again, longer, better. The kind of kiss that promised more kisses, more time, more everything. When they broke apart, Adrian was smiling that rare wide smile that made him look younger. "Thursday?" he said. "Every Thursday, For as long as you want. That might be forever. I can handle forever. Good. He pulled her close. Because I'm not planning on letting you go. A year after the warehouse meeting, Lena graduated. Bachelor's degree in business management, earned in night classes while working part-time for Adrian's foundation. Her mother and Adrian both attended the ceremony. Marcus Lau sent flowers with a card that read, "Congratulations on your escape." She wasn't sure if he meant from poverty or from Adrian's world. Maybe both. She didn't escape either, really. Just learned to navigate them. Learned that money solved some problems and created others. That protection came with proximity to danger. That love was complicated and messy and worth it anyway. Adrian proposed on a Thursday. Morning coffee at the cafe that had started everything. Got down on one knee right there in the corner booth while Jenna squealed and Marcus pretended not to cry, and regular customers pulled out phones to record something they'd tell people about later. The ring was simple, elegant, exactly right. "Will you marry me?" Adrian asked. "Not because of debt or obligation or anything except that I love you and want to spend the rest of my life proving it? Yes." No hesitation, no doubt, just yes. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony, close friends, family that mattered. Her mother walked her down the aisle, crying happy tears she'd earned through survival and treatment and stubborn refusal to die. David Chen served as best man. Jenna was maid of honor and gave a speech about stalker romance that was inappropriate and perfect. Kincaid caught Lena after the ceremony. "I told you once that Mr. Vale only makes 3 decisions that aren't calculated. This is the second one. The first was helping you. The third will be having children if you want them, just so you know what you're getting into." "I think I've figured it out." "Good. Because he'd burn the world down for you. Try not to make him." "I'll do my best." The reception was beautiful and chaotic, and everything a wedding should be. They danced badly, ate cake that was too sweet, toasted with champagne that was too expensive, kissed whenever someone clinked glasses, which was often because their friends were obnoxious. Later, much later, alone in the hotel room that cost more than her old apartment's monthly rent, Adrian pulled her close. "No regrets?" he asked. "Not even one." "Good." He kissed her, slow and thorough and full of promise. "Because I have plans, long-term plans, building something real, you and me." "That sounds complicated." "It will be," he smiled. "But I think we can handle complicated." "Yeah, pues," Lena kissed him back. "I think we can." They could. They did. Not perfectly. Not without fights and setbacks and moments when Lena wondered what she'd chosen. But perfectly was overrated. They built something real instead, messy and complicated and absolutely worth it. Thursday mornings remained sacred. Adrian still showed up at 7:33. Lena still made his coffee. They still sat in that corner booth and talked about everything and nothing. The cafe changed ownership. Cities changed. They changed. But Thursday stayed constant. A ritual that reminded them where they'd started, how far they'd come, what they'd chosen when choosing could have gone either way. Years later, when people asked how they met, Lena would say he was a customer who wouldn't leave her alone. Adrian would say she saved his friend's life, and he returned the favor. Both were true. Neither was complete. The real story was longer, messier, full of debt and danger, and federal agents and warehouse meetings and choices made in fear and hope simultaneously. But it always ended the same way, with them choosing each other. Every Thursday, every day, for as long as forever lasted, and that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.